It was a crisp autumn morning in the remote wilderness of Montana, where the towering pines swayed gently in the breeze and a soft golden light filtered through the forest canopy. The isolated town of Silver Creek, nestled at the base of the Bitterroot Mountains, had long been a haven for outdoor enthusiasts. Yet, amid the tranquil beauty of the region, there lay an unspoken respect and fear for the wilderness that surrounded them. Jim Adler, a seasoned wildlife photographer, had made the journey to Silver Creek in search of a career-defining shot. Known for his daring pursuits, Jim had built a reputation for venturing into the wildest corners of the world to capture images of predators in their natural habitats. His portfolio boasted breathtaking shots of African lions, Alaskan grizzlies, and Arctic wolves. But this trip, he believed, would elevate his craft to a new level. Jim's target this time was the elusive mountain lion, a creature both revered and feared by the locals. Stories of sightings were whispered in the town's diner, tales of fleeting shadows and glowing eyes in the dark. But mountain lions, with their stealthy nature and preference for solitude, were rarely seen, let alone photographed. Accompanied by his guide, Owen Callahan, a rugged outdoorsman with decades of experience, Jim set out before the dawn. They trudged through the dense forest. The silence broke only by the crunch of leaves underfoot and the occasional call of a distant bird. Owen had warned Jim about the risks. "These cats are unpredictable," he said, adjusting the rifle slung over his shoulder. "If you're lucky, you'll never know one's watching you. If you're not," his voice trailed off, leaving the ominous thought unspoken. Jim dismissed the caution with a wave. "I've handled worse. Besides, you're here to keep us safe, right?" He flashed a confident grin, his camera swinging from his neck. By mid-morning, they reached a ridge overlooking a valley blanketed in mist. Owen pointed to a set of fresh tracks in the dirt. "Mountain lion," he said. "Big one, too. Looks fresh." Jim's pulse quickened as he knelt to examine the tracks. "Let's follow them," he said, already adjusting his camera settings. They moved cautiously, the tracks leading them deeper into the forest. The air grew cooler, the sunlight dimmer. Jim's excitement was palpable, but Owen's demeanor grew increasingly tense. "This is prime hunting ground," he muttered. "We're not the only ones tracking something." Hours passed without a sighting. Jim's initial enthusiasm waned, replaced by frustration. "Maybe it's long gone," he said, slumping onto a fallen log. Owen shook his head. "Not necessarily. These cats are patient. They'll stalk their prey for hours, even days." Jim raised an eyebrow. "You think it's watching us?" Owen didn't answer, his gaze scanning the surrounding trees. "We should head back. It'll be dark soon." Reluctantly, Jim agreed, and they retraced their steps. The forest seemed to close in around them, shadows stretching long and ominous. Jim couldn't shake the feeling that they were being followed. Every rustle of leaves, every snap of a twig set his nerves on edge. As they neared the trailhead, a blood-curdling scream shattered the silence. It was a sound Jim had never heard before, primal and haunting. Owen froze. "Mountain lion," he whispered. His hand tightened on the rifle. "It's close." Before Jim could react, the predator emerged from the underbush, a sleek, muscular form with a tawny fur and piercing yellow eyes. It moved with an unsettling grace, its gaze fixed on the two men. "Don't run," Owen said, his voice low and steady. "Don't turn your back." Jim raised his camera instinctively, snapping shots even as his hands trembled. The click of the shutter seemed to agitate the animal, its ears flattening and tail lashing. "Easy," Owen murmured, slowly raising his rifle. But before he could fire, the mountain lion lunged. The attack was swift and ferocious. Jim barely had time to react as the creature's powerful form collided with Owen, knocking him to the ground. The guide fought back with primal ferocity, using the butt of his rifle to fend off the animal. Jim stumbled backwards, adrenaline surging as he fumbled for the bear spray strapped to his belt. The scene was chaos, snarls, shouts, and the metallic tang of blood in the air. Finally, Jim managed to deploy the spray, the orange mist engulfing the predator. The mountain lion recoiled, hissing and snarling, before retreating into the forest. Jim rushed to Owen's side. The guide's face was pale, his shirt soaked with blood, from deep gashes along his chest and arms. "We need to get you out of here," Jim said, his voice shaking. With great effort, he helped Owen to his feet, the two of them staggering towards the trailhead. Every step was a battle, the weight of Owen's injuries and the fear of another attack pressing down on Jim. By the time they reached the truck, dusk had fallen and the forest was cloaked in shadow. Jim drove like a man possessed, the tires skidding on the dirt road as he raced towards the nearest hospital. Owen drifted in and out of consciousness, mumbling incoherently. They reached the hospital just in time. Owen was rushed into surgery, and Jim collapsed into a chair in the waiting room, his hands still trembling. Hours later, a doctor emerged, her expression grave but hopeful. "He'll make it," she said, but it was close. The encounter left an indelible mark on Jim. The photos he captured that day, though stunning, felt like a hollow trophy. He couldn't shake the image of the mountain lion's piercing eyes and the sound of Owen's struggle. The wilderness, he realized, was not a place to conquer, but to respect. Jim's story became a cautionary tale in Silver Creek, a reminder of the delicate balance between humanity and nature. The mountain lion was never seen again, disappearing back into the vast wilderness, but for Jim and Owen, its presence would forever be felt, a haunting reminder of the power and unpredictability of the wind. In the weeks that followed, Jim returned to the forest, this time not with a camera, but with a desire to understand. He sought out local experts, biologists, and trackers to learn about mountain lions and their behavior. He discovered that the cat's attack was likely triggered by territorial instincts, exasperated by the duo's intrusion into its hunting grounds. Jim also learned of other close encounters in the area, speaking with ranchers who'd lost livestock and hikers who'd glimpsed shadows in the trees. Each story painting a complex portrait of the animal that was neither villain nor victim, but a survivor navigating an ever-shrinking wilderness. He became an advocate for coexistence, using his platform to educate others about the importance of respecting wildlife. His once thrilling tales of adventure now carried a somber message. The wild is not ours to command. Owen, after months of recovery, joined Jim in his efforts. The attack had scarred him, both physically and emotionally, but it also deepened his connection to the land he'd called home for decades. Together they spoke at schools, community centers, and outdoor expos, sharing their story and urging others to tread lightly in nature. Jim's photographs of the mountain lion, taken mere moments before the attack, were featured in a national exhibit. The images captured the animal's raw power and beauty, sparking conversations about conservation and the delicate balance between humans and predators. Over time, Silver Creek embraced its wild side, implementing measures to protect both its residents and its wildlife. Trails were marked with signs warning of mountain lion activity, and workshops taught hikers how to safely navigate the forest. The town's diner even added a new item to its menu, the mountain lion burger, a tongue-in-cheek nod to the predator that had become part of its lore. For Jim, the forest remained a place of mystery and reverence. He continued to explore its depths, but now with a new perspective. The camera he carried was not a weapon to capture and claim, but a tool to honor and reveal. And although he never saw the mountain lion again, its presence lingered in his mind, a silent guardian of the untamed wilds.